What is going on? How's it going? And welcome to your second training for intuitive eating. Really excited to dive in here with you. We are going to be diving in, like I said, on those 6 major categories of intuitive eating. We're going to be covering why they're important as well as tactics for implementing them. And so, like I said, we're going to be covering eating slowly. You're going to get really, really familiar with these. We are going to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat these. So, we're going to be covering eating slowly, eating to 80%, eating when hungry, eating mindfully, eating real food, and eating balanced. These are going to be the intuitive habits that we're going to be covering. And the first one on this list is eating slowly. So, why eat slowly? We want to be eating slowly and not have our meals scarfed down in 0.5 seconds. My boyfriend and I literally call it his meal's done in 5 minutes. It doesn't matter how big the meal is. It could be 2,000 calories. It could be 800 calories. It could be a 1,500 calorie meal, whatever. And he has that down pat in 5 minutes, down the hatch, the whole thing. And I probably am closer to like 15 to 20 minutes to eat a meal, except for snacks sometimes. I will admit I am guilty. But essentially, why eat slowly, right? It improves and eases your digestion. Your digestive process starts in the mouth. And then it goes into the esophagus, right? And then it goes and it does all the things down there through your intestines, through your stomach, etc. But the digestive process before it goes down your esophagus, it starts in your mouth, right? The saliva is going to act to start to break down the food. Your teeth are going to break down the food. But if you are just inhaling full bites of food, not chewed, you are making it that much harder on your digestive tract. Your stomach is going to have to secrete that many more digestive enzymes, right? As it goes down and into your stomach, your esophagus, right, is going to have to secrete that many more like enzymes to start to break the food down and then eventually to break the food down. It's just so much more pressure. Of course, that's its job, but it's just so much more pressure and energy intensive on your digestion. Can also lead to bloating, gas, things like that if you are not breaking down your food through thoroughly. So not only does it improve digestion, but it's also going to ease digestion by eating slower. And then also, it allows you to have for a more significant brain to like gut connection, right? I'm sure you've heard, oh, it takes 20 minutes for your brain. It's a very common concept, right? It takes about 20 minutes for your brain to communicate with your stomach to know that your stomach is full and that you've had enough to eat. So if you eat fast, right? And the example I'll give you again is my boyfriend who eats, no joke, I'm not even kidding you, like a 1,400, 1,500 calorie dinner. He eats that in like 4 to 5 minutes. And then always about 10 minutes after he eats, he's always like clockwork. I have a stomach ache. Oh, my stomach hurts. And because he's not eating at a pace where his stomach is able to communicate with his brain to say, hey, hold up, buddy. Like, we are good now. We have been satisfied. We've been taken care of now. We're good. We don't need more, right? So it allows for your brain gut connection. It allows for your stomach to talk to your brain and for your brain to be able to listen. And therefore, inevitably, you'll be able to eat the right amounts of food for your body, not under, not over, and eat the right amounts of food for your body. And then lastly, number 3, your food's going to taste so much better. So much better. I promise you. Your food's going to taste better. You're going to be able to taste like, you know what I mean? If you just like have a grape, I guess, for example, here, like, and it's just down in 5 seconds. Like, did you really get to taste the juice and the sensations of the taste and the flavors and sensations of eating that grape, right? So why eat slowly? Number 1, it improves and eases your digestion. Number 2, it improves your brain gut connection, which will allow you to eat, if you are trying to lose weight, less food, if you're trying to maintain the right amounts of food. And it will allow you to also taste your food better. Now, this one I know is not so easy. Sometimes it can just be, so habitual to eat fast. Maybe you're in perpetual productivity mode. So it's like, okay, eat fast because I want to get back to work. Okay, eat fast because I don't know when my daughter's going to wake up from her nap. Eat fast because So my boyfriend is one of four children. So family dinners, it's kind of like, get your food, eat your food. And, if you don't eat fast, it's gone. You can't go back for seconds, etc. So even as an adult now, his natural tendency, because it's a psychological pattern at this point, it's a neural pathway, it's an association of like someone's going to eat my food, I'm not going to have enough food, etc. So for him, it's really second nature because that's how he grew up, to eat fast, and that's now his kind of habit now as he's older. Whereas me, for example, I grew up in a family where so they did family style food in the middle of the table. Me, we did food was on the counter. My mom would serve you a plate, right? Serve you like a plate with usually a protein, a veggie, a carb, etc. So my mom would serve a plate, and you would sit down at the dinner, and you have the food that's in front of you, and that was also our time to catch up. So we would have a bite and put the fork down and talk, and have a bite and put the fork down and talk, and like you would eat what was in front of you. So I you know I was exposed at a young age to a slower style of eating, and so now that learning this habit, do I always eat slowly? No. Am I sometimes not mindful of what I'm eating and what's in front of me and it's gone in 5 seconds? Yes. In fact, I ate a bar earlier while scrolling TikTok, an RX bar, and it was gone in like 0.5 seconds. So I'm not perfect, right? But raising awareness of it and improving, the speed in which you eat, like we talked about, it'll improve your digestion, it'll ease your digestion, it'll improve that connection of knowing when you're actually satisfied and get you back in touch with your natural hunger and satiety, as well as allowing you to taste your food better. Now, in your resources, you will have actually, I'll link it up in the trainings, I think, but you will have a slow eating workshop that you can do, that you can work through. I would highly recommend doing it. It's going to help you really, really, really slow down a lot in your eating, to just experience it, especially experience it from that taste perspective. All right. Moving on to how to eat slowly. I'm going to go ahead, pause this, take a sip of water. So, this first one on here is listed first because this was the most helpful thing for me when I started truly dialing into my intuitive eating habits and paying attention to them. I did full chew and swallow your food. So, how sometimes you'll chew and you'll like shove food to the side of your mouth or to the back of your mouth and put more food in it, or sometimes you'll chew and swallow and then you still have some food but then you take another bite. So for me, this was the number, of course we'll talk about all of these tactics, but for me this was the number one most helpful tactic for me in learning how to eat slowly. Was I would have this little game with myself. I wasn't allowed to take my next bite until everything, of course, like I didn't swish my mouth with like water and go mouthwash and floss in between bites, but I would take a bite and I would fully chew it until it's like a pulse, right? Fully chew it until it's a pulse, and then swallow your food. And I had this little game with myself where I wouldn't let myself take my next bite until I had fully swallowed everything that was in my mouth. And so this would obviously in turn have me putting my fork down. But the first thing that's on here that's listed out, right, is fully chew dash swallow your food, as a like, okay, nothing else. Cause sometimes when you're in a rush, again, it's like you have half of your food over here that's not even chewed. Then you have another bite in and then you're going to maybe swallow. It's like, again, you want to help your digestion. You want to actually taste the food and you need to slow down. So number one idea to help you is to fully chew and swallow your food before taking your next bite. Number two is to put your fork down. This allows you to breathe. This allows you to take a sip of water. This allows you to be present with the people you're with. This allows you, if you're reading or anything like that, to like be present without an ongoing forked mouth or whatever. But put your fork down in between bites, or spoon, whatever you're eating with. But just putting your utensils down in between bites will, of course, have you slowing down because, you put it down, you don't have to pick it back up. It's just going to add another extra element for you to think about. But this is in between like every bite, right? Another idea, use chopsticks will absolutely slow you down, especially if you're not great at using chopsticks like myself, because it's going to require you to slow down and be taking smaller bites because there's less, less control typically and smaller bites all in all, or use your non-dominant hand. So at the beginning as you're learning to eat slowly, you can also eat with your non-dominant hand because it's going to be a little wonky to bite your food and pick your food up. You're not going to feel as in control. So that's another tactic you can use. And then lastly, be present with the people that you're with. This is a great way, right? Like to obviously be present with your food, but also be present with the people around you. Put your food down, ask a question, put your food or have a bite, swallow, put your fork down, ask somebody a question, respond to something, comment on something, smile with someone, listen to somebody, right? And just be present. If you are with people, if you're by yourself, obviously we want you present with your food, with the food that's in front of you. Of course, I understand maybe you want to read, maybe you want to scroll your phone, but we do still want you to be present with your food. But nonetheless, if you are with people, go ahead, put your fork down, wait a minute, and be present with the people you're with and use the food as something that's happening during the presence of those people, but not, not the sole, autopilot, right? Just like shoveling it down and shoveling it in, right? And so also going back to the why eat slowly is just it's really going to raise your awareness overall and raise your intentionality overall, which will in turn have you making more mindful decisions around your nutrition and just all in all better decisions around your nutrition. So, why eat slowly? It's just going to have you more intentional. It's going to have you slow down. It's going to have you mindful. I should have added that bullet here in addition to improves and ease. Like number 4 is just like it's going to raise your intentionality all in all, right? So, how to eat slowly, like we talked about, fully chew and swallow your food. You can put your fork down in between bites. You can use your non-dominant hand or chopsticks and focus on being present with yourself and being present with the food. I would also add that, right? Be present with people and be present with food. So far, you're gonna see this list a lot because again, I want to really, really get it in your brain. So number 2, you're going to be learning eat slowly. Sorry, eat slowly as number 1 and eat to 80% as number 2. So let's go ahead and cover why eating to 80%. So if you look at your fullness level on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0% to 80%, right? 80%, it's hard to kind of like define, like when your body feels X, you're at 80%, but 100% is when you're full, right? Like when you have reached fullness, you feel distension in your stomach, you feel larger in your stomach, you're like, blech, right? So you want to stop, or you feel heavy, whatever it is, you want to stop right before that. And you also don't necessarily want to be continuously eating under that where you're only eating to like 40, 50, 60%, where if you eat the 50% for your lunch, and you don't quite satisfy yourself and you don't quite satisfy your hunger, a couple hours later you're going to be eating again and you're going to be hungry again, right? Which kind of goes back to like, it depends what your goals are. If your goals are weight loss, if your goals are to kind of intuitively eat so your body is naturally in tune with it's fueled and it's in tune, and again, if you are trying to lose weight, theoretically, law of thermodynamics, you're trying to eat less food, again assuming in a simple sense there's nothing else involved in weight loss, but again, there is other things involved in weight loss, of course. So eating to 80% is going to allow you to eat above undernourishment. So you're going to stay full for a while, you're going to stay full for several hours, rather than eat to 50%, 2 hours later, again, you need to eat again. Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? But it also depends on like your schedule and your life. And, if you're going to go be out for 6 hours and not have a chance to eat again, you really want to fuel yourself up. So it's going to allow you to keep nourishing your body constantly without undernourishing and or overnourishing and giving you stomach. So it avoids, like I said on here, avoids overeating and excess calories when you can continuously, when you are hungry, you sit down, you eat a meal to 80%. It's going to keep your energy high right? Constantly throughout the day, if you're eating, let's call it 4 meals to 80%, you're going to stay full the whole day, and it's going to keep you fuller longer versus, anything less than you're going to be hungry again soon. And again, theoretically, by eating to 80%, this will allow you to not overeat. It's also going to avoid that stomach ache that my boyfriend gets every time he finishes his meal in 10 minutes and it's been 1,400 calories and then he has a stomach ache. It's again going back to eating slowly. It's easier on your digestion. And overall, it allows you to be more mindful. All of this is just going down to at a core value mindfulness, right? Like eating slowly, being mindful with your food, eating to 80%, being mindful with your food, right? It allows you to kind of dial into your body and dial into your food and dial into the eating experience as a whole, and be present with yourself, and be present with like asking yourself, are you overeating, and being clear with that, and like I said, being intentional with it. So overall, lots and lots of reasons why we want to be eating to 80%, and there's no one size fits all to 80%. There's just raising the awareness to stop eating below 100% and also below 90%, to eat to just the right amounts of food to satisfy your body, to give your body the energy, and to use the energy that it's given, but not be bogged down by overeating or undernourishing or anything like that. So next up, we've got how to eat to 80%. So 80%, like I said, is a tough number to figure out what exactly 80% is. How do you identify what that is? And the first thing is to just know that it'll take some time. It'll absolutely take some time to get used to, some time of playing around with, some time of figuring out. I wasn't at 100, but I was definitely at 80, and that was definitely a lot. Um, just playing around with it, like, and getting comfortable with like, what's your 80, what's your 90, what's your 95, what's your 70, what's your 60, and just like paying attention to that. Obviously, raising your awareness is the first step, right? And just starting to ask yourself at the end of your meal or throughout your meal, again, like, where are you? How are you feeling? Did you overeat? Did you undereat? Did you get enough to eat? Are you still hungry? How are you feeling? Are you bloated? Are you, distended in the stomach? Are you 10 pounds heavier because that one meal? Like, just getting, not 10 pounds, that's not realistic, but, just number two that's listed on here is paying attention to how you eat, paying attention to how you're feeling as you eat. Number one on here is obviously eat slowly, because we get to know, that we get to know, sorry, I just got a text in the ding. Got me sidetracked, right? Imperfections. Here we go. Eat slowly. Of course, eating slowly, you're going to be able to get your brain paying attention to what's going on, and your brain's going to be able to know, okay, I'm getting close to 80%. Like, I need to slow down. I'm full. I'm satisfied, right? Etc. So, eating slowly is going to help you be able to identify your 80% more accurately. And then also, like I was saying, pay attention to how you are feeling as you eat. Pay attention to your physical feelings, within your body, within your mind, etc. And just, overall paying attention to how you're feeling as you eat. And then ask yourself questions, right? Some of the stuff I've already said on here. Ask yourself questions. How am I feeling? Where am I at? And just, do I need one more bite? Do I need a few more bites? Like, where am I with this? And then overall, just take note of when you do overeat, why? And when you undereat, why? So I want to really emphasize, like, when you do overeat, make a note of it. And in the resources section here, as I said, I would start to explain the resources throughout the training, and then I'll explain them again in detail at the end, as well as link them up there for you. So making note of when you overeat, right? So who were you around? What was your situation like? How was your stress? What was going on around you? What were you doing? Were you at a restaurant? What happened during your day, right? And just make note of when you are overeating and or undereating, and like, why was it? Who were you around? Like I said, what was your surroundings? What was your settings? What did your day look like? What was going on, etc. And paying attention to those things, right? Paying attention when you do overeat. Why did you overeat is going to be so important, especially if you are somebody that has binge eating tendencies like I did. Getting clear when you overeat and why is going to be so, so, so important to do. So How to eat to 80%. This one, there is no science because there's no, scientific, this is the exact percentage of 80%. But just in general, some things to think about are eating slowly so that your brain can communicate with your stomach and you can know when you are hitting that true 80%, which is really the fuel that your body genuinely needs. It doesn't need more than that. Paying attention to how you feel as you are eating, asking yourself questions like, how am I feeling? Where am I? Where am I on that chart? Am I starting to feel full? Am I feeling satisfied, etc.? So playing around with and finding that 80%. And again, you might have to play around with it for a few weeks before you actually figure out what your perfect 80% is. And then, like I said, making note of when you do overeat and kind of looking back. And I'll provide you with a breaking the chain worksheet that you will have access to help you when it comes to figuring out, your overeating patterns and your overeating tendencies. Okay. So far we have covered how to eat slowly and why to eat slowly. We have covered how to eat to 80% and why to eat to 80%. And moving on next, I categorized both of these into the same section. We are going to be covering eating when hungry and eating mindfully. These two are kind of one and the same, but they're also kind of different. So we're going to start with eating when hungry. Now, I will say, let's also just go ahead. I'm going to actually fast forward one and then I will come back. There are exceptions to this one, right? The exceptions are as follows. If you were previously under eating, I do not want you following the eating to 80. If you were previously under eating, for any reason, whatever way, shape, or form, maybe you just developed a habit of like skipping meals because you've been so busy. Maybe you have a history of eating disorder. Maybe you previously were under a very long-term, very severe calorie cut, calorie restriction, etc. Then I would say eating when hungry might not necessarily be for you. Because it's not going to do you any good to continue under eating. Even if you're not feeling hungry, if you were previously under eating, it's still not going to be to your benefit to only eat when you're hungry, because again, you may have, shot your metabolism. Your metabolism may have slowed for other terminology. And it's just not going to make it. You have to, in order to eat, I'm just going to back up for a second. In order to eat intuitively, you have to be in touch with your body. In order to be eating mindfully, you have to have a mind connection with your body, So if you were previously under eating, so much so that you can't feel your normal hunger, or you don't feel normally hungry until 3 p.m, this is not for you. This element here, I would say follow the rest of them, but don't follow this one, because you're just going to be continuing to further damage your metabolism by, again, that example is if you're previously under eating, let's just say you skip breakfast because you're not hungry, but then you skip lunch because you're so busy at work, you get a break at 3 p.m, and now you're finally hungry, and you don't feel hunger prior to, right? Again, this is just going to be doing more damage than good, because you are ignoring your body's natural, your body is not necessarily, I would say, in touch with telling you when it's hungry, and you're not so in touch with listening because, it's a habit that you've created. So there are so many exceptions when it comes to eating mindfully and eating when hungry. And the biggest thing that I want to share, obviously, is the exceptions of if you were previously under eating for whatever reason. There could be any number of reasons, but if this is you, then eat mindfully, yes. Eat when hungry, no. Because you are going to be, likely having to hit a minimum calorie target. We likely want you eating more money, eating more food. Goodness gracious, sorry. Eating more money. Don't eat money. That would be weird and gross. Money's dirty. Physically dirty, not ethically dirty. Although some of it is ethically dirty. So, number 2, if you are trying to really gain muscle mass, I'm not talking like big chunky monkeys, but we're talking if you're trying to get lean body mass, and you're really trying to gain lean body mass, or if you are an ectomorph trying to gain weight and or trying to gain muscle, then eating when hungry just isn't going to cut it, right? I don't know if you've heard of cuts and bulks, but if you are bulking and you're really trying to gain muscle, and you're eating, let's call it 2,800 calories a day, you might not be hungry for all 2,800 of those calories, but nonetheless, you got to eat all 2,800 of those calories. Or, a bikini competitor in the off season. I think of my friend Anne Marie Lawrence. Some of you might know her. She is a friend of mine. And I remember her telling me in her off season, she eats 3,000 to 4,000 calories. And I was like, holy heck, ma'am. I don't think I'd be hungry for 300 to 400 calories. In fact, I'd be above 80%. Right. So, of course, if you're really trying to gain muscle mass, which, of course, like any kind of like competitor in their off season, when they're not cutting, they're bulking because they're trying to build up their muscles to, again, then shred and have bigger muscles. Right. So, if you are, number two, if you're really trying to gain muscle mass or lean body mass, you want to eat hungry, but there's some obvious exceptions there. Number three exceptions here for eating when hungry and eating mindfully is if you are reverse dieting. So a reverse diet can mean any number of things. A reverse diet can mean you've got 100 pounds to lose. You're doing your calorie cut at 1,600 calories. You do 1,600 calories. Sorry, I'm talking really fast. So I'm going to slow down. A reverse diet is when, again, a couple of things. Number one, maybe you have 100 pounds to lose. Let's just do it in even numbers. You lost 25 pounds at 1,600 calories. You need to take a break from that, right? You need to replenish your body and give your body back what it needs. So maybe you do a 6-week reverse diet where you eat more calories and replenish your body. And then again, you go back at it, you calorie cut at 1,600, maybe you calorie, around 1,600, you lose another 25 pounds. You're going to want to take another break again, right? And give your body, again, the energy that it needs. Food is fuel, not just a tool to lose weight with. So reverse dieting in that sense, or from like my side of things, I lost weight at about 1,500 calories when I really lost that like last 10 to 15 pounds consistently and steadily and off for the rest of life. I ate at about 1,500 calories. Now, if I ate 1,500 calories a day, I would be ravenous. Like I would just be so hungry, right? So the idea is to slowly work your calories up, whether you do that intuitively, whether you do that kind of like extra intuitively, intentionally intuitively, or you do it through, some kind of calorie or macro tracker. Nonetheless, if you are reverse dieting, the eating when hungry, eating mindfully, yes, is relevant. Eating when hungry is not so relevant. So those are the exceptions that I really wanted to share with you guys, because the eat when hungry is a little, doesn't make sense for 100% of the circumstances, but eat mindfully, yes, of course, eating mindfully does. So what does it mean to eat mindfully and eat when hungry? Basically, it means you're going to be honoring your body's natural hunger and fullness cues, right? You're going to be honoring your bodies and getting clear. When's your body telling you it's actually hungry, right? Is it just a little grumble? Do you start to get sassy? Is it sharp pains? Do you start to get faint? Do you start to get low energy? Do you start to get irritable? Do you get a headache? Do you get thirsty? Like, what is your body's natural hunger cues? But nonetheless, you're going to start to get really familiar with your body's natural hunger cues and natural fullness cues. And that's what eating when you're hungry allows you to honor. Like, my body is hungry. So what? It's 11 o'clock and your lunch break is at 12:30 and your body's telling you it's hungry and it's like genuinely and truly hungry. Then eat something. By all means, eat something. Your body is telling you it needs food. So it allows you to be in touch with that and honor that. And then on the other side of things, if you're not hungry, and you are, none of these exceptions, and you are not hungry, but you're just like craving something, then you got to figure something else out, which actually I should probably link up cravings and stuff in some of my bonus resources. But nonetheless, if you are craving something and you're not hungry, getting curious with yourself, asking yourself why, what, how, what went on, what's the pattern here. But eating when hungry allows you to, right, like we talked about, just be able to tune into your body and pay attention to what your body's telling you and pay attention to your needs, right? And if you're a female, I get a lot of questions from clients in my one-on-one coaching program that are like, Jackie, I'm about to get my period, or Mom, I'm on my period. Why am I so hungry the last day or so? I feel like a bottomless pit. Well, your body is actually hungry because it's revved up your metabolism and it wants you to eat more because it's getting ready to have a baby, theoretically, in essence, even though it's just your period, or could be a baby, but so that's your body's natural way of saying like, hey, I'm getting ready for a baby. I want you to feed me, but don't worry, your metabolism boosts up, right? So front half of your cycle, you might not be as hungry. You might not be, simply put, you might not be as hungry, and that's okay. Then eat a couple hundred calories less. But in the second half of your cycle, if your body is constantly feeling hungry, why would you deprive your body of that? Your body has its needs. Your body's fully, if you are in tune with it, right? You can eat intuitively if you are in tune with your body. Your body's going to tell you what it needs. Your body's going to tell you, I need water, as long as you're listening for it. Your body's going to tell you, I need food, as long as you're listening to it. Your body's going to tell you, I need micronutrients, if you're listening to it, right? I've got this giant green juice next to me because I finished up at the gym and I was just like, wow, my body right now needs some greens. It needs some micronutrients. Like, that is what I need right now. I'm also about to go into my period, so I figured, start to get some iron up there. Green leaf, green chard, kale, spinach, right? Parsley. I was like, I need to get something with vitamin. I felt it. Like, I felt my body was craving some greens because I know I'm about to start my bleed in 1 or 2 days from now. But all of that's to say, like, when you eat hungry and when you eat mindfully, you are able to be in touch with your body, and you're able to be listening to your body and paying attention to your body and honoring your body and honoring your body's needs, right? Not like, I'm hungry, I'm going to ignore it, or and not like, I'm not hungry but I'm just going to overstuff my body anyway, right? Like, really honoring your bodies. And I think that when we honor our bodies and we feel our bodies well, on a side note, it's an act of self-love. It really, really is. It's an act of self-love. So sorry, this training is a long one. I know we're on 30 minutes. Stay patient with me here. We got a couple more to cover. Eating mindfully and eating when hungry, again, just like everything else listed, it allows you to reduce your caloric intake, such as eating slowly. Also, again, this is if you're working towards weight loss. If you're working towards weight maintenance, it allows you to just like at least be mindful and dial in and make sure you're not overdoing it. Make sure you're not like putting weight on or anything like that, right? Not avoiding weight gain. But, it can reduce your caloric intake, or again, keep you at a maintenance caloric intake without like binge eating and binge drinking and overeating and mindless eating and stress eating, etc. And lastly, it pushes you to look at the other things going on. So it allows you to get aware and get curious and get gentle. If you are continuously overeating on Friday nights, it allows you to get curious, like, why on Fridays, like, what specifically is happening? Or if you whatever it is, like, there's a million examples I could give you, a million circumstances I could give you, but it pushes you to look at the other things, which we'll talk about in the Breaking the Chain resource. But essentially, it's going to have you look at other things going on. If you are constantly overeating, constantly binge eating, constantly snacking when you're not hungry, eating mindfully will have you pushing yourself to take a look at, like I said, the other things going on. So many benefits to eating when hungry. Again, if you're not one of those exceptions, and eating mindfully, right? So I also went on here and I created this list of questions to ask, such as, when it comes to mindful eating, why am I eating right now, right? Am I genuinely hungry, or is it something else going on? And how else could I give myself what I need, right? So these questions, why am I eating right now? Are you eating because you genuinely are up for, is it recovery? Are you genuinely up for full, you waited till you got hungry, you're ready for a good solid meal and you're just fueling yourself? Or are you eating because it's social? Or are you eating because you're stressed? But like, whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter the reason, but getting mindful enough to ask yourself, why am I eating right now, can really go absolutely a long way. And then the next one here is, am I genuinely hungry, or is something else going on? Which kind of goes off to that last point there on the why eat mindfully and why eat hungry, is because it's going to push you to take a look at those things outside of the actual physical act that's happening when you either binge eat or have, air quote, an eating episode, right? So, and then asking yourself, how else could I give myself what I need? If it's just boredom, how else could you do something to fill your life with something that brings you joy and fill your life with excitement and happiness? If it's sadness, how else could you find love and seek joy, etc.? If it's stress, how else could you give yourself stress management? What better forms of stress management could you find? So those are just some examples of questions you can ask, but I definitely would write those ones down. And these are more along the lines of mindful eating, right? Like, why am I eating right now? Am I genuinely hungry, or is something else going on? And how else could I give myself what I need? So the last slide we're going to cover on this very long 30-minute training here. The last slide we are going to cover is the bonus resource on breaking the chain. This is a type of food log. It's not an actual food log in the fact that you're going to be logging every single thing you eat. And this is relevant for any kind of eating habit or eating episode, we're going to call them, right? So if you are overeating, this is resource is relevant if you are A, overeating, or B, in binge eating regularly. If you are having food that doesn't make you feel good regularly, like it gives you a stomach ache, it makes you feel lethargic, etc. If you are having intense cravings, if you're having cravings at all, intense cravings, I think I have that asterisk there. If you're having intense cravings, it could likely mean that there's a hormonal imbalance, or something is low, right? Like low iron or something like that. So with that being said, if you are having light to medium scale cravings, then you can just do some digging, some mental work, some emotional work, some psychological work. But if you are finding yourself in a place where you're having like intense and ravenous cravings, you likely have something off balance. So I would recommend getting a hormone panel and blood work done. Lastly on here for breaking the chain, the last two are food that doesn't nourish you in large quantity, right? So if you're regularly eating a full pizza, but you wouldn't maybe consider that binge eating, it's still a food that doesn't nourish your body in large quantity. And or emotional or avoidant eating. So eating to avoid XYZ, right? So emotional or avoidant eating. So you're going to want to keep an eye out for the resource on breaking the chain. Basically what it asks you is to look back at your 5 minutes before. We're just going to call it an eating episode. So the eating episode could be anything here, right? Overeating, binge eating, food that doesn't make you feel good, giving into cravings, food that doesn't nourish you in large quantities, and emotional or avoidant eating, etc. That's usually what I identify as an eating episode within my program, my one-on-one coaching program. But anything else that you personally as an individual want to identify as a eating episode, you are more than welcome to identify that as an eating episode. So when you have those, the bonus resource on breaking the chain, right? Like you got to fix the kink to link in the chain. But the idea is to look back at like what happened 5 minutes prior, what happened 30 minutes prior, what happened an hour prior, what happened the day prior. And that's where it's going to let you see where's the link that was broken in the chain. Where's the link that was broken in the chain that made you get stressed, that made you binge eat that night? Or where's the link in the chain that gave you a craving because somebody at work had blank, 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 and it led to you wanting blank, So nonetheless, I will break that resource down even further and what it is and how to use it in a further training. But I wanted to start to give you an idea of like how you can use the breaking the chain exercise to look at, in theory, what it does is it's going to have you look at everything that led up to that eating habit or that eating episode. So you can start to identify where is the break in the chain. And then obviously the end goal would be to heal your eating episodes.